We are talking about food systems thinking, a holistic thinking about an entire food system.
We just don't want to be the people who came with a project, left, and then it went. We want to get also needs from the farmers themselves.
So how do you make sure that this vision is carried through and the quality is actually maintained?
We are accountable to the DON. We are accountable to the county government. We are accountable to the partners, the farmers, the agro dealers. We are accountable all around.
What we have done in Siaya, Kakamega, and Bungoma can be done everywhere else on this planet, and we transform the food systems and we'll be able to feed the hungry population over the world.
Thank you for joining us, viewers. Welcome to this conversation, and you are going to have a good conversation on sustainable food systems. We'll be narrowing down to implementation and management of a sustainable food systems with a case project in Western Kenya, which has been implemented in partnership with ADS Western, and we'll also be talking about the role of WHH. And we are joined by leaders from WHH who will be telling us what WHH is all about and who they are. So I'll be introducing my panelists for today's conversation. That is Dr. Gordon Gademba from the far end. I'll be giving him an opportunity to tell us more about himself, and Finalin, and also we have Melvin. So we'll begin with Dr. Gademba. Welcome to today's conversation, Dr. Gademba.
Thank you very much. I'm really delighted to be part of this conversation. My name is Dr. Gordon Gademba. I work for Weltunga Health as a food systems expert and also an area manager, overseeing all our programs that entail food security.
Very good. He's an area manager and also a food systems expert at Weltunga Hilfe, which is abbreviated as WHH, and we'll be talking more about this project with him. And we also joined with a beautiful lady here who is in charge of quite a few things at WHH. Tell us about yourself.
Thank you very much. My name is Finalina Cheng. I work for Weltunga Hilfe as the partnerships coordinator. So basically what I do is manage our partner implemented projects. Thank you.
And you're also joined by another lady here, Melvin, who is also all smiles. Maybe there are good things today.
Yeah, thank you so much, Arik. My name is Melvin Achieng. I also work for Weltunga Hilfe as the monitoring and evaluation coordinator, and I support programs that are running in Western Kenya. I am very much delighted to be here today so that we can know how we can be able to transform data into actionable insights for decision making. Thank you.
Transforming data into actionable insights for decision making. That is Melvin Achieng, who is helping us to monitor and evaluate the Sustainable Food Systems Project in Western Kenya, which has been implemented courtesy of WHH, among other partners. I'll go straight to Dr. Gordon Gademba. This is a project that requires a lot of planning, a lot of putting structures in place, and creating a good foundation so that it is built on structures. Just tell us about the ideation process for the Sustainable Food Systems Project.
Yeah, thank you very much. Once again, the Sustainable Food Systems Program was coined under the fact that we realized that the former way of supporting agricultural program through value chain development wasn't yielding the right results. So we came up with this project so that we can holistically address the food system from production to consumption. And when we were deciding this project, we realized that most of the partners had got used to the way of implementing program through value chain development that wasn't yielding results. So it was very important that we ensure there is proper capacity building, not only for the civil society organization that are implementing the program, that is Anglican Development Services and Kenya National Federation of Farmers, but also to ensure that the government extension service officers and the government policymakers understand how do we think differently, how do we bring in the issue of systems thinking, a way of ensuring that when you look at production, you look at it holistically, from production to distribution, to value addition, to post-harvest handling, ensuring the environment is well managed, ensuring sustainable management of agricultural production systems, and ensuring that all this information goes to the stakeholders who are involved in the production and who can be able to support to ensure we improve our systems and we ensure we attain to the Sustainable Development Goals under the United Nations that help us to ensure that we live in a world that is fair and that can allow us to actually live comfortably.
Wow, talking about building capacity, you sound like a big brother in a room full of implementers who need to be trained, who need to be equipped, who need to be held hands so that they can do the right thing. Just help us understand a little more what it takes to build capacity with the various partners that you have mentioned.
First of all, you need to understand that building the capacity of stakeholders, especially in a food systems, requires them to change their thinking. Here we are talking about food systems thinking, a holistic thinking about an entire food system. So the first thing was for us to be able to make them understand that it will be take a different kind of design to this project. So we started by looking at how do we make people understand that there are gaps within the food system. So that was the scoping part of it, that we understand there is a problem that requires to be filled. Then secondly, we had to ensure that these communities and these stakeholders understand that they have to diagnose the problem. You cannot solve a problem that you don't know. So we had to make them understand that there is a problem within the food systems that is making us not to be able to produce enough food. Then we had now to take them through the entire design of the project that will be transformative, meaning that a project that will look at the context in which we live in. In this case, it was the context of Bungoma, Kakamega, and Siaya. What is the current situation now? This is an area full of smallholder farmers. Over 80% of the producers are smallholder farmers with limited knowledge in agriculture. So how do we change their minds to be able to change their systems that they use to produce? Second, we had to look at the productivity, the declining productivity and the issues of the declining land that probably these farmers use as a resource to produce. So we had also to take them through a process of understanding that land as a factor of production requires to be sustainably managed. So we had to take them through an entire package of sustainable agricultural land management practices that will lead to them to understand that if they don't sustainably manage the land, then productivity will actually decline. This is just like when we say in economics that there is the law of diminishing returns. You may continue using inputs expecting higher returns, but at some point you realize that the more you put in more inputs, the lesser productivity you get. And you keep on wondering, cost of production has gone up, but you're not getting the returns that you need. Then we had to take them through a very clear way of inclusivity, including all genders into this to be able to address the issues of land tenure system. Because if you don't have the land or you don't own the land or you can't make decision on the land, then you can't use this land. And then we had to take them through a whole system of how do we monitor impact? How do we monitor from the baseline to understand this is where we were when the project was starting and this is where we want to go to. And that's why we had to set a very clear framework of exactly what will be the indicators to showcase a transformed food system, encompassing the inclusivity that we want, encompassing the resilient environment, and encompassing the sustainable production that will be there for longer times without destroying the land. So all these processes had to go on. Then later on, we had to look at the policies. If the environment is not conducive for production, then obviously the producers will not produce. So we had to look at the existing environment, policy environment, and be able to look at the policy makers and ensure that they have an existing policy that will support productivity. And all these went in to ensure that everybody understands why are we doing this and why do we need a transformative food system. And then lastly, we had to look at the extension system that is existing and ask ourselves, is it having the right knowledge to be able to train farmers to produce more? So when we realized there were gaps within the knowledge that the extension system that existed, both public and private, we had to come in strongly and now retrain the extension service providers. And later on, we looked at the inputs, because if you don't get quality inputs, then it means you won't be able to produce sustainably. So that's why we brought on board 300 agro dealers to ensure that these are the people who will provide the inputs to the farmers. What are the prices like? What are the quality of these inputs? Is the fertilizer of the right quality? Is the seed of the right quality? Are the inputs that go into production of the right quality? So we had to look at all these. And then lastly, we had to look at the environmental conditions. Are the pests and diseases an issue? How do we ensure that we are looking at an integrated pest management system that will ensure that the management of the environment is taken care of as we control the pests and diseases, and then farmers understand how they can be able to sustainably and safely use these inputs in the production. All this holistically brought us to understand one thing, that for us to be able to produce, we really need to look at the entire chain, from the producer, what the producer needs, the finances that go into this production, the aspect of quality that we produce, the marketing of this produce, and lastly, what the consumers require is what is supposed to be produced, so that we'll be able to attend to the nutritive value of the food that is produced. And then we look at producing subsistently to feed the families, and also producing commercially to ensure that farmers can be able to earn a living out of the activities.
That's a very clear understanding of the case of this project, and you have clearly outlined what needs to be done, and you have actually narrowed down to Kakamega, Bungoma, and Siaya counties, which have been your counties of interest. Probably you'll tell us more about the other regions. So I just want to understand, probably from Finalin, who is in charge of partnerships, why was it important that you go out and look for partners? It is usually the younger brother who looks for partners, but you are the big brothers in the room. Why were partners important so that you address these issues?
All right, thank you so much, Rick. First of all, there's the localization agenda. Ideally, we want to decentralize ownership of projects. You realize that many a times when we have project implementation donor funded, once the phase is over, the project tends to die off. So ideally, in this case, we wanted to bring the aspect of sustainability that beyond WHH being at the village level, who will be able to monitor, who will be able to ensure sustainability of the knowledge that we have now given to our farmers as the main stakeholders in this case, and how will we ensure sustainability and even ownership, because you realize that when we would have gone and looked for even the participants ourselves, then it would be a WHH initiative. But now bringing in the local partners, ADS, KENAF, they are recognized. The farmers know them, they're aware of them. So the localization of it all is the main reason why we now went in to work with these organizations, which is ADS and KENAF, because we want ownership at the grassroots level. Another thing is to also ensure community participation. We just don't want to be the people who came with a project, left, and then it went. We want to get also needs from the farmers themselves. In this case, we want to get what are some of these needs that you have as farmers, as agro dealers. What are the gaps that you yourselves have that this project that we have can be able to address? So ideally, we wanted to also bring the aspect of community participation so that there is ownership. We need capacities from different partners in this case. You as a partner might have capacity strength, we might have the funds. So we are able to collaborate and ensure that the bigger goal of eradicating hunger is dealt with, so that we are not working as ourselves, because we want to go far, and to go far we have to move with people. So ideally, that's why we are embracing partnerships and collaboration for all partners in the development sector.
To go far, you must work with people. You have to embrace partnerships and collaborations. We cannot work in silos, and we want this thing to be owned by the communities, isn't it? Yes. And actually, 1 + 1 is equals to 3. That's the language of synergy. 1 + 1 is equals to 3. But Melvin, whenever you are bringing on board partnerships, the whole thing looks messy because interests are conflicting. People are structured in different ways. People have different worldviews. Others are at different levels of growth as an organization. Others have just begun. Some farmers are just like starting, and others are like miles ahead. So how do you end up making sure that you level up the space so that there can be effective monitoring and evaluation, and also there are right systems to make sure that there is a desired outcome out of the whole investment that you're putting in these partnerships?
Thank you so much, Rick. We normally say that it is not a one-man show.
Yeah.
Considering we're working with partners, we're working with ADS and we're working with KENAF. These partners...
So ADS, that is Anglican Development Services Western, yes. And KENAF is the Kenya National Federation of Farmers.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. So you will realize that these partners are attending to different outputs. ADS is attending to output 1, 2, and 3. And then KENAF is attending to output 4. You will realize that they need capacity strengthening. For us, we know what needs to be reported to the donor. But for us, we need to do all of this together. That calls for capacity strengthening of the farmers, of the partners. And we need to come together. It is not just a matter of us creating, let's say, for example, the reporting templates. We just create them and then we impose them on the partners. It will not work that way, because someone will just be struggling to input or to fill whatever you have imposed on them. But when we sit down together, we create the reporting templates, we create the data collection tools that we're supposed to use, you will realize that it is now a seamless process. There is no part that there is a disconnect between us and the partners. And then you will realize that for us, the data collection tools that we use are standardized, so that whenever ADS are going to meet the farmers, they are able to know what is required, what information is required to be collected from the farmers. Whenever KENAF are going out there to meet the duty bearers, they know the type of information that we require from them, that it is not just a matter of collecting information for the sake of it, but it is collecting information that can enable us to report to the donor. You will realize that even in regards to monitoring and evaluation, we have targets and we need to track the progress. So it is about result-based monitoring. We are checking where are we. Let's say, for example, we have tools that we normally use to track our activities. Yeah, the tracker tools that we say that we are supposed to complete this activity 1 during this period of time. Where are we? What is our progress? We're supposed to train 6,030 farmers. Where are we in Q1? Where are we in January, February, March? So that is also something that enables us as WHH to know that we are actually moving, that it is not just a matter of ticking boxes, but quality is there. And then you will realize that for us, we do joint monitoring visits together, that it is not just a matter of ADS or KENAF telling us that we have done this training, we have visited, we have recruited 6,000 farmers. We have to see the farmers. You can tell me have trained 10,000 farmers, but where is the evidence? I have to.
We must come with evidence.
Yes, the evidence has to be there. So what we do as WHH together with KENAF and ADS is that we participate jointly in the monitoring visit, and then when we come back after the visit, all of us are able to have a sitting and we are able to discuss, what did you see? Like, I give my my view, this worked well here, we can improve on this area, there is a challenge on this area, so that it can inform decision making. Because if I sit in the office and I await a DS or KENAF to give me a report, I cannot be able to have that visual representation of what is actually happening in the field.
So, Melvin, what you're telling me is that when you're an M&E expert, monitoring and evaluation expert, like you are in a project like the SAST Farm project, you are basically the guardian of the vision.
Yes.
You want to make sure that in as much as we are pushing this agenda in collaboration with partners, we are bringing on board farmers, we are putting in an investment, we must never digress from the original intention. That's quite a mandate, and I think you are doing it quite well. But then you've spoken about crafting the structures together, sitting down to discuss together with the various stakeholders what needs to be done and how it needs to be done. But let's face it, the reality of life is that there are always emerging issues in the process. Maybe Dr. Gwademba, you can just help me understand how you handle matters arising that could potentially make you lose focus of the original plan or probably digress from the intended results. So how do you handle the emerging issues, especially in the Sustainable Food Systems project, which you're implementing in Western Kenya with ADS Western and with KENAF?
Yeah, thank you very much, Rich. It's true that there will always be emerging issues. You design a project now, this project is going to run for 2-3 years. There'll be emerging issues that may even change the expected outcome of the project. So basically, but to avoid some of these risks, we start by ensuring that the project is co-created and co-planned together with the implementing partner. So we have what we call the inception meetings, whereby we discuss the project with the implementing partners for them to understand exactly what is expected of the project, what are the expected key outputs, what are they supposed to do so that they can be able to deliver the desired impact. And then we are able to look at all those matrices that are going to tell us that this is the desired impact and this is what we are supposed to do. And that's why we do this after having a feasibility study to understand what is the current status and what is the status do we want to achieve maybe 3 years after the project has been implemented. The second part is to look at the resources that are available, whether the resources available that we are giving to these partners are enough to be able to deliver the desired impact. Once we design that project at the beginning, we are looking at basically what is happening as the project starts and what is expected at the end of the project. But it's true along the way, a lot of changes could occur. Some of the changes could be those ones that there are risks that could be managed and others are risks that may not be managed. For example, environmental changes may not be controlled by either of the partners. So we take note of the risks that are likely to occur along the progress and we register this in the risk log. This risk log is maintained to show us that probably these are some of the things that are likely to occur along the project to make us not be able to deliver on this project. That risk log is kept on being actually updated. Secondly, we keep on having a continuous training and retraining of the implementing partner. We don't only train them on the technical aspects, but we even train them on the issues to do with financial management to ensure they are managing the resources properly. Then we continue engaging these partners to understand what is their capacity in delivering on the outputs that we are expected of them. If we realize there is any inhibiting factor among the team, then we come in strongly. Then we also look at the emerging issues in terms of technology, in terms of innovation, working together with research institutions, working together with the schools, looking at the research papers being developed throughout the phase of the project and looking at the trends that are emerging within the production environment. And we are able to bring this to the attention of the implementing partners. And whenever gaps exist, then we hold an impromptu training just to make sure that we can be able to show them exactly where gaps could occur lead to non-performance in the project. But finally, what we exactly do is that we first of all look at the capability of the partner to implement this project, because our projects are thematic in focus. For example, we may have a food systems program, we may have a water sanitation program, we may have a health program. So we select a partner based on the ability of this partner to deliver that thematic area. For example, we look at KNAF and realize that KNAF is actually the voices of the farmer. They are advocating for the rights of the farmer. Therefore, they are better placed to be able to address issues to do with policy and advocacy in the agricultural sector. We will look at ADS, Anglican Development Service, and we realize that Anglican has got a very strong focus on nutrition and production. So we'll give them projects that are aligned to the areas of strength before we can even start. But of most important is that Veltunga Hilfe has a technical team. For example, in this case, we have a food systems technical team, we have a water and sanitation technical team, we have a health technical team. So this technical team that we have here in the country and also at the global level works with the implementing partner to ensure that their capacity is enhanced throughout the implementation, with a focus on the fact that at the end of the project is only ending because the donor will stop funding. But we are expecting this partner to have gained knowledge enough to enable them to continue implementing the project even beyond the donor funding phase.
Wow, thank you for that. And we'll be talking more about this partnership thing. But Finalin, I wonder how your day looks like at WHH, because now you need to like somehow work with people outside your organization while taking care of the interests of World Hunger Health. We have spoken about maybe KNAF and ADS as some of the partners. Are there any other partners? And probably you can also make us understand what is this process of building partnerships and making them work?
We have a partnership strategy at Veltunga Hilfe. What begins is now our project. So ideally, we have a mapping system where we map out all the partners that are in the different areas that we're working in. You realize that we are working in different parts of Kenya. Example, we're working in Kitui, Makindu, Marsabit, Tana River, and other regions here. So we need to realize who are the partners working in the different areas where we are working in. So after identification, we need now to go back to now the projects that we have. We have water and sanitation and hygiene programs. We have skills programs. We have the nutrition programs. We have the food systems programs. So after we have identified the partners and the projects that we have, we now have to align it with what we have. So in this case, a typical role that I play is we have this project, the SUST farm project, right? So we have already identified this farm, these groups. Ideally, we now go into the process of now analyzing the needs that they may have, because at the end of the day, the target is to achieve the objectives of the Sustainable Food Systems project. So we need to understand their capabilities. We need to understand the project design, the outcomes, the indicators, so that when they are going to implement, there's a clear understanding of what is expected in terms of delivery. So this happens periodically, or rather methodologically, logically, in the sense that we don't just impose on you to now, because you are our partner, this is what you're expected to do. No, there is a process that goes in, and as Dr. Gordian has just put it, that we have to have the inception meetings where we are also meeting other indirect, or in this case, we have other partners who are involved, not necessarily directed, but they are in behind the scenes. In this case, we're talking about the county government, the national government. We're talking about research institutions. In this case, we have KALRO, who has been significantly working with us to develop.
So KALRO, that is the Kenya Agricultural and Livestock Research Organization.
Exactly.
Thank you.
So in this case, we want to ensure that we have a project that is very sustainable, right? So in this case, KALRO comes in. We have an output on ensuring dissemination of information to our farmers. So they helped us develop an application which is called Kilimo Pesa.
Kilimo Pesa is actually
yeah.
I've seen it.
Yeah.
It's a good.
It's a very good application, basically, that helps us to decentralize information, agricultural information to farmers. So you realize that different partners will come to play, not necessarily as maybe now, in this case, now that you're using the big brother term, but in this case, they are our anchors to ensure that when we are talking about advisory information to farmers, Not necessarily that an extension officer will always come to visit, but are they able to still access this information? So Calro comes in, offers this service. We also have partners who offer services such as soil testings. So we have CropNuts, we have SGSS, all of them SGS, who are now offering other services. So it might not necessarily be big brothers in this case, but they are there as anchors just to ensure that we have a sustainable food systems project, right? We also have other partners, for instance, now the schools. Yeah,
You know, you are a big brother when you actually deny it.
yeah, we are the big brothers, no? But ideally, that is how it works. So you realize that partners are in play at different capacities. We have the service providers, we have the direct implementers, and farmers are also our partners, because in this case, we wouldn't have a sustainable food systems without our partners. Yeah, we are working with now the aggregation centers. We have supported aggregation in three aggregation centers. So ideally, for us to have the whole system at play, we have all these interconnected partners that come into play for the bigger picture, a world without hunger.
Wow, that is so beautiful. You've spoken about a number of issues that go into place when you're making sure that partnerships are organized around a certain framework, a certain design, and the various implementation metrics are well outlined, that even the outcomes are well communicated, and the implementation strategy is discussed in an inception meeting, something you call an inception meeting. Probably you just want us to understand why that is important, because maybe without these inception meetings, without this design, you'd be seeing an orange and your partners are seeing a lemon, and another partner is seeing a tangerine. So maybe why is this important?
Okay.
Yes.
At the very onset of any program, it's very important to make sure that the community understands what it is that we want to do. Our goal is production. Our goal is a money in the pocket of the farmer. So for us to understand this, all of them have to be brought into this forum, and then we're able to work to understand the nitty-gritties of the project. We're able to understand that when we are talking about policy, why should we have policy? Why should a farmer understand policy? So we are able to answer those questions to them, the ones that they'll ask. Gray areas like why should we have aggregation centers? Markets have continued to be a challenge. Why would we have now agro dealers being brought into at the face of a project that we want to also include these people in programming? So ideally, the inception meeting is to make all these key players understand the core design and the objectives of a project, in this case the sustainable food systems project.
It's an interesting thing too. I think your job is quite an interesting one, because you've got to work with everybody. You have to open doors so that you can accommodate so many people and have the vision implemented. That is quite a good thing. So the bar is set, the design is already laid out, and everybody is on board. But now there's a monster in the room. How do you make sure that the quality is not compromised? So how do you make sure that this vision is carried through and the quality is actually maintained all the way to the end? Melvin, you are the M&E expert here.
Yeah, thank you very much, Rick. You will realize that in monitoring and evaluation, actually, the name keeps changing time and again. We started with M&D, we went to MEAL, we went to MREL, we now have PMEARL, and then there is D. So you will notice.
So right now we are at
P. It starts with PMEARLD.
Maybe you'll Google what that means.
Yeah, sure. So you will notice that in M&D, there is this very critical aspect of accountability. Accountability is one thing that we need to keep check in, considering we are accountable both horizontally and vertically. We are accountable to the donor. We are accountable to the county government. We are accountable to the partners we are working with. We are accountable to the farmers, the agro dealers, the processors, the aggregators. We are accountable all around. And even we're accountable to the partners that we are working with. We have different partners who are working in the same field. Like my friend Finn said, she talked about the soil testing service providers that we are working with, the research institutions that we are working with. We're even working with the local administration, the chiefs and all. We are also working with various development partners. We have Practical Action, we have GIZ, we have a lot of development partners. Sorry. So you will realize that we have to get feedback from them, because we are working in the same region. All of us are either way involved in the food systems, right? We have to get feedback as for, if I am communicating, for every action there is a reaction. Cindy. If I am supposed to, if I am implementing a project, I need to know how am I progressing on. And one thing that we normally do to ensure that at least we have quality checks, we normally have review meetings with the various key stakeholders that we're working with. They tell us what is working well, what is not working well, where are the areas that we can improve on, what are the challenges that we are facing, so that as WHH you can have a roadmap and know, sit together with our implementing partners and know how to navigate around whatever feedback we have gotten from them, so that we can be able to act. And if it is a challenge, what can we do? Such things. And then I spoke about the co-creation of the tools. It is also an aspect of quality, that it is not just WHH imposing things on ADS and Kenya, but it is a matter of all of us being together. It is a matter of tracking the progress. We have indicators that we are supposed to report to the donor. How are we tracking the metrics? In these indicators, how are we progressing on? Are we just ticking boxes and saying we're supposed to train 6,000 farmers? Here is the list of the 6,000 farmers. We're supposed to assess the impact. And how can we do this? We can be able to do assessments, both internally and even go ahead and involve the external consultants to come in and tell us how is our project like in terms of effectiveness, in terms of efficiency, in terms of impact, in terms of relevance, even in terms of sustainability, that it is not just a matter of us saying that we're implementing a 3-year project and that is it, but we are able to do it the right way, do it by the book, and ensure that impact has been made in the communities that we are working with. And you will realize that we also do documentation. Someone once told me that you can do so much, but if it is not documented, then it was not done. I can go to a training.
If it was not documented,
it was not done.
It was not done.
Yeah.
And if it was done, let it be done right.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Have to see the
Thank you so
evidence
much,
in that.
Melvin. Dr. Gwademba, you have been involved in this project for 3 years, especially in Kakamega, in Bungoma, and in Siaya County. And you have seen how partnerships have played a role. You have seen how farmers have responded. You have seen the impact in the interest to see a world without hunger. You have seen how it can be when this thing is scaled up. What lessons are you taking forward after Sastram project in Bungoma, Kakamega, and Siaya?
Yeah, thank you very much. There are quite a number of lessons that we have learned and that we have documented, and others we are still documenting. But key to this is that co-creation is very important. That a project should not be imposed on people. People have to take part in the co-creation and co-planning of this project. They have to bring out exactly what is their problem, and is this what they want to be handled? Because sometimes you may create a project assuming that this is the problem that you want to solve, yet you find that the community is not actually suffering from that problem that you have. So one lesson is that it's always very good to engage the communities that will be participants in the project to understand exactly what do you want to do and whether what you want to do will solve a gap that is within their community. The second thing that we have learned, that continuous learning is very important. That a project may start, but you have not figured it out. When you start the project, you have not figured out how the end result will be. So there'll be changes along the way. And you need to stop and take stock of what you have achieved and be able to allow room for revision of that project if you believe that you are not on course to deliver what you expected to do. Sometimes projects are coined and you have to deliver this indicator, but along the way you realize that's not exactly what the community needed. Second, it's very important to look at the environment in which you are implementing a project. This is basically the transformative policy environment. You may do everything right and you have all the resources that you want to use on that project, but if the goodwill of the political environment is not there, then delivering on such projects is not easy. Some projects fail just because probably the governments in which this project was implemented in their area didn't appreciate or were not aware of what you are doing. So involving all the stakeholders in the project from the start to the end is very important. Something else that we have said that we can say that this project has actually can document or have already documented is the issue of ensuring that there is continuous participation of all the partners. Be it the implementing partners, those are the civil society organization, the government is there, the private sector should be there, involving everybody in whatever you are doing. The financial institutions should come along. They may not be the key implementers, but involving everybody will actually enable you to deliver on the results that you need. Then it's always good when you are implementing a project to look at the context in which this project is supposed to be implemented. Start with a global context. For example, in the case of the Sustainable Food Systems Program, we are looking at the global context in which we want to transform the food system. What are the strategies and policies that are available at global level? That's why we are even looking at the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. We know very well that out of these 17, at least 15 of them are actually addressing a transformative productive system. So look at the global level, what is happening at global level. Then come to the regional level and then address the issues within the country. That's why we are talking of the transformative strategies that are available in this county, the Vision 2030 that are available in this county, the agricultural sector transformation and growth strategy that is in this country. Are we contributing to the growth of agriculture in this county? Look at the various agroecological policies and strategies and food systems that are available. Learn from them. Evaluate other programs that are also working in the same area you are working so that you don't duplicate effort. Sometimes you can come in with a project, then you realize somebody else is doing exactly what you are doing. In the end, you are not creating change. You are only repeating what other people have done. So it's good to look at the environment and find out, is there anybody else whom I can work with to be able to deliver impact? Look at the institutions like what my colleagues have said, the research institutions are available, the emerging trends, the technologies that are there, the innovations that are available, so that as the project matures, you are able to incorporate any emerging information that's there. Then one of the things that I would like to say again, the lessons we have learned, that inclusivity is very important. If you come and start running a project, you need to consider all genders. Are you including men and women? Are you including the youth? Are you ensuring that they partake? Are you including people with disabilities? Because unless you attend to everybody and you include everybody in the program, then you may not achieve any form of success. Then you need to observe the environmental condition in which this project will be implemented in. Climate is changing every time because of our practices. Be able to look at the land tender systems. Are you going to find farmers who will be able to tender their lands and be able to address the issues that you want them to address? So those are some of the issues that you need to look at. But basically the most important thing is to ensure that you have the capacity of the people who will be in charge of the project. What we have done in Siaya, Kakamega, and Bungoma can be done everywhere else on this planet, and we transform the food systems and we'll be able to feed the hungry population over the world. So we really need to look at the systems that we are putting in place to produce food. And what Sust Farm project has done in Western Kenya, if replicated and scaled out all over the world, all over other counties, the 47 counties in Kenya, will be able to transform the food systems, make it more resilient, make it more inclusive, and make it more sustainable to ensure that more food is produced and everybody can be able to get food. Not just food, but food that is nutritious, food that is safe, and food that is available at any time, so that these people can live self-determined lives. Because when you don't have food, when you are hungry, then you are not human. And we can change this by just changing the way we produce food, by transforming our food systems that at the moment is actually defragmented.
At the moment, our food systems are defragmented, but through initiatives like this one with the sustainable food systems in Western Kenya, you are able to fix the fragmentation and actually create a world without hunger. Thank you so much, Dr. Gordon Gademba, Finelin, and Melvin, all of you from Welthunger-Hilfe, that is WHH, an organization that is so keen at eradicating hunger, working in collaboration with other organizations, and we are very grateful that we are able to change our community by every action that we take towards sorting out our problems. Thank you for joining the program. My name is Rick Okinda once again. It's been a pleasure moderating this conversation, and we look forward to taking this impact into our various spaces, into our various spheres of influence as consumers of food, as people concerned with hunger and poverty, and as people who want to embrace the spirit of Ubuntu so that everybody can be on the ship sailing together towards a safer, food secure world for all of us. Thank you so much.